only intended to say, like, non-naturalist realism wrong. That doesn't actually demonstrate anti-realism is true, because it doesn't even address the reasons one might have for being a naturalist, not a
Yeah,
realist.
yeah.
So you have that issue. The other issue is that I just don't endorse a naturalist metaphysics in the first place. So why would I endorse an argument that's predicated on that? That doesn't make a whole lot of
Yeah.
sense. So my issue with non-naturalist realism is an issue of intelligibility, not a metaphysical issue. So typically, non-naturalist realists believe that the stance-independent moral facts are not reducible to descriptive facts. That's one of the primary distinctions between non-naturalist realism and naturalist realism is irreducible normativity. And so what that is it's the idea that there are facts about what's good or bad or what you should or shouldn't do. I'll take all the normative and deontic language, should, shouldn't, good, bad, right, wrong. There are certain propositions, like you shouldn't hurt babies for fun or something, that they would say are not capable, even in principle, of being reduced to some sort of descriptive claim. They are irreducibly normative. You can't get rid of the normativity. That is what I have an issue with, is the idea that there are non-descriptive factual claims. I just don't think that there are factual claims of that kind. And so that has nothing to do with a metaphysical issue. It's a conceptual issue.
Mm-hmm. But wait, and I don't think you adopt this view, but you can be a non-reductive naturalist, right? Like, you can take it like a supervenience relationship or something.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And there are people that have espoused views like that. I mean, so they're still going to fall to one of the horns of my trilemma, which they would just they're going to trade irreducibility. Sorry, they're going to trade unintelligibility for triviality. And in those cases, you might have some naturalists that retain that, like, can move away from the triviality, but they're going to reintroduce the unintelligibility. So my position is that the view is unintelligible. It's not that it's false, it's that it's literally not meaningful. And that's what's got me in the most trouble. A lot of people really, really, really don't like that suggestion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should.
So, I mean, this has been treated with immediate contempt from the few philosophers I've seen that have entertained it.
Yeah, I know. I really wish Lance Bush would. Sorry, not Lance Bush. Sorry. I really wish Nathan Nobis would have debated. That would have been good. But
yeah, I wish Lance Bush would write more about.
You muted? Did you do that on purpose?
I can't.
Was that the joke? Sorry, I'm sorry.
I think it was a quietism joke. I don't know.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I call myself an anti-realist quietist because the standard anti-realist positions are all framed in terms of making some claim about what they take ordinary language to mean. And it's really funny because I go around saying, hey, contemporary metaethics is framed in terms of a descriptive claim about what non-philosophers mean when they make moral claims. They're all concerned with, like, what moral sentences mean. And I go on to say, this is a fundamentally misguided way of approaching metaethics. This is totally silly. And in any case, non-philosophers aren't realists or anti-realists anyway. They don't think about this stuff. They don't talk about this stuff. And then I get people saying to me, oh, that's so stupid. What would what people have to say about morality have anything to do with the metaphysical truths? And I'm like, yeah, no, exactly. Why are you presenting this to me as a criticism? So I've had people say that my work is boring because I'm too focused on what non-philosophers think. And the whole point of my entire dissertation is to say, hey, you dipshits, what non-philosophers think isn't really all that relevant. So let's stop talking about it. And then they're like, why are you talking about it? I'm talking about it so we could stop talking about it. What what the heck? I mean, imagine criticizing someone that goes around doing really good debunkings of the flat earth by saying, oh my God, all you do is talk about the flat earth.
Yeah.
The whole point is to get people to realize the earth isn't flat, that's dumb, and you should stop talking about it. So, I get a lot of, like, really reactive, reflexive objections to the points that I'm making, where I feel like if a lot of philosophers sat down and looked at the points that I'm trying to make, they shouldn't even disagree. Like, after all, if it turns out that what non-philosophers are saying and doing isn't all that relevant, then philosophers don't need to worry so much about whether most people are realists or anti-realists, and all this concern about students being relativists. But, it's a general point I make. What if we, like, change the way that we spoke? So what if I convinced everybody to talk like a non-cognitivist, and then everybody talked like a non-cognitivist for the next 10,000 years? Would that mean that moral facts would stop existing?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
obviously not. So, like,
Mhm.
the metaphysics is not contingent on how we talk. So why do philosophers treat it like it is? It's very, very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of similar response to I think it's Moore's open question argument, right? Where he conflates the kind of semantic usage of terms with the metaphysical. That's one response that kind of naturalists give.
Well, yeah, and keep in mind that Moore's open question argument, at best, I mean, first of all, it's going to rely on certain sorts of epistemic assumptions that we have like good access to analytic
Yeah.
considerations. We could neatly say, well, doesn't feel like that's the right analysis, so it's not. So the question
Yeah.
is legitimate. There's concerns with that, but then also it doesn't deal with synthetic naturalism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's not. I don't even think I've ever heard of an analytic naturalist.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I don't know if anybody's an actual analytic naturalist. I mean, maybe arguably
think that
Sam
might be-
Harris is kind of, but I mean, he doesn't really count. He's not
I think
really an
it's
academic
some-
philosopher.
I think there's some utilitarians like that are like fringy. on that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. There might be some. Well, then, he might raise some concerns for them. I mean, in that case, they would lose on both analytic and synthetic grounds, because if you went out and you looked at everyday moral practice, it's very clear that people are not trying to maximize utility.
Yeah.
That is not
yeah.
what morality is for
100%.
or is doing.
Because Mill gives like
So-
a proofing, right? Yeah, where he says that you can't have pleasure states, or sorry, everyone tries to achieve pleasure states, and those are good, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, a utilitarian that's a realist is going to have to rely on a lot of conventional philosophical methods. They're going to have to say that most people are probably not in a state of reflective equilibrium, and so they're not
Yeah.
really thinking or trying to maximize utility, but that's due to intellectual errors and biases of various kinds that were they under optimal, like they might be favorable towards thinking something like under optimal conditions you could reveal that people are crypto utilitarian in a certain sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really endorse the Mackey argument. Argument from disagreement isn't good. I mean, this is kind of the funny thing. I don't think there's a single good like you have all these arguments that people whip out like Pokemon. Like they're like argument from disagreement, go.
Yeah.
People have these kind of canned arguments, like prepared in advance. Like they get them at McDonald's. You go to the drive-through and you pick out. Yeah. Their arguments are like nuggets for people.
Yeah.
I'll take a 6-piece nugget of 6 arguments, and then people just whip out other people's arguments. This has really made me come around to the view that I don't really think it's a productive way to do philosophy to go around with canned arguments. I think that people need to approach things more holistically and more dialectically, and that can make it very frustrating because then people will say, "Well, what's your argument for anti-realism, Lance?" And I'm like, "I don't have one," and then that makes me look like a moron. People are like, "Oh my God, you're going around confidently defending this view, and you don't even have arguments for it." And it's not that I don't have arguments; it's that I don't have canned arguments. I can certainly argue. It's not like if you put me in a discussion with people, I go, I don't know. I just kind of think it's true. I don't have anything further to say. I have a whole shit ton to say. I could talk people's ears off about this shit. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
But like philosophy should be cashed out more conversationally and more dialectically. Like if you want to see if there's a problem with a person's view, get that, like talk to the person and start exposing inconsistencies and showing problems with their worldview. That's how you show that they've got a personal issue. It's not by whipping out a canned argument and seeing if they have a canned response.
Yeah. Yeah. As well. I think
If they torture a baby for no reason.
I suspect the reason they do it is because most people, at least on this app that I've spoken to, that are like moral realist or anti-realist, they're in like college. They're like second year, third year students, so they're learning about like Mackey's arguments and stuff like that, and they give the kind of arguments because they just learned them.
Holy gift, W. Lance.
Yeah, they read arguments in a book and then they just go use the arguments. It's not a good way to do philosophy. Now, look, if you're doing that and you're like learning philosophy and everything, I'm not like trying to shit on young people doing this, but it shouldn't be the end all of the way that people approach philosophy. And unfortunately, it is even for academic philosophers that they still just want to like shove everything through a syllogism, and it's just a shitty way to do things.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer to be completely honest, like especially on TikTok, I do prefer the push for people to formalize their arguments because it makes tracking reasoning like easier, at least.
Oh yeah, no, there's no problem with asking someone to formalize their argument, especially if it's not clear. But I mean, people, there's uses and misuses of formalization. Formalization is great when you're talking to random people on TikTok because random people on TikTok will have convoluted or confused reasoning. You don't know what the hell they're
Yeah.
saying. Ordinary people without a lot of training will equivocate a whole lot. So
Yeah.
pushing things through syllogisms in a conversation makes sense. My problem is with people thinking that the only way for you to argue is to show up with a set of prepared syllogisms.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
And that's just, there's no reason for that. Because if I present an argument where it's very clear that I'm using something like a modus ponens or an implied modus ponens, forcing me to formalize it is a waste of time unless you're the idiot and you can't track ordinary language. But people will do that. You could say something like this. You could say, look, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, Socrates is mortal. And someone will say, formalize that, put it in a syllogism. And you're like, what? That's already a
Yeah.
syllogism, you idiot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want me to say, if P then Q, P therefore Q? Like I have to do that for you? Which
Yeah,
thing is the P? So a lot of people do that because they're not very good at thinking. And sometimes people do that as a hurdle. It's kind of like some kind of bullshit test that they throw at you where it's like, well, if you can't formalize it, I'm not going to take you seriously. And I don't like when people do that.
Yeah.
What's especially bad about that is that it entangles the legitimate uses of asking for syllogisms and asking for formalization with the illegitimate ones, and it makes the legitimate ones look bad. It's the same thing that happens with people that use, well, what do you mean by that? Like by some term you use to filibuster or to just slow you down or be an asshole. Because there are very many cases where it's completely legitimate to say, look, I don't know what you mean by good. And then people go, oh, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. They get mad at you because they think you're trying to slow them down. But you can absolutely just trip somebody up forever by just being an asshole. And, they present some argument and you're like, well, you use the word because. What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
I don't know how to
I
explain
agree,
what I
yeah.
mean by because. Fuck off. But so someone will just trip you up. And so then it makes everyone that tries to get clarification under suspicion of being like an asshole filibusterer.
Yeah.
And that sucks. So what we really need are good means of discriminating legitimate cases of asking people for clarification and illegitimate ones, and legitimate cases of formalization and illegitimate ones. And unfortunately, some people are so damn sneaky that you can't tell. You can't tell if they're being honest or not. You can't tell.
You made those people, by the way. You made the people dishonest. Like when they used to, like I used to watch your and ask yourselves videos where you'd respond to people, and then everyone just saw that this was like a goated strategy, and like people would just be like, "What do you mean by basic, really understandable kind of concepts?"
Yes, unfortunately, I've witnessed people in real time employ like pseudo Lance arguments, where I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Isaac has dealt with this too, where people
Yeah.
will take his method of trying to drill down for clarity, and they'll just use it. And this is one of the worst things people will do, is they'll just demand that you jump through endless hoops of further formalization and clarification. And it's a wonderful strategy because whatever argument they give you, you could ask for but what's your argument for the
Premise
first
two,
premise of that? Yeah, but what's your argument for premise two? What's your argument for that? What do you mean by that? Well, okay, well, just so I'm clear, let me see if I could articulate your argument back to you. And you could just do this for like an hour until a person
Yeah.
gets annoyed or frustrated, and then as soon as they do that, you give them shit about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people do this.
Yeah, I know. I've witnessed it. Yeah.
And this happened to me about a year ago. Someone was asking me for my views, I think, on unintelligibility. And
Mhm.
I was it was like a Sunday morning, it's like I should be like hanging out with my wife and going to the farmer's
Yeah.
market or something. And I get up and I start arguing with these people, and I'm like, fuck it, let's feed them a bit, give them something. So I'm answering questions, clarifying, answering questions. Before I know it, I think I was responding to questions for about 2 or 3 hours. And this was in text. It wasn't even VC. And I'm like writing up fucking paragraphs. And then at some point the person just goes, it just feels like you're not really explaining anything at all. And I absolutely lost my shit. I'm like, I just wrote a fucking novel for you, and then you say I'm not saying anything?
Yeah.
It's like, imagine someone says, can you build me a tent for me to camp here? And you build them a freaking house. And then they're like, you lay down another brick, and they're like, it just feels like you're not trying.
No, yeah.
Like
no,
you burn this fucking house down now. So
Yo,
I've had people do that
Lance,
to me.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you see are you looking at the screen
Yeah.
Can you see the three people in my background? Do you know
Yep.
who any of those guys are?
Nope.
You know, have you ever heard of Curtis Yarvin or Moldbug?
I've heard the name, but I don't really want to talk about like that kind of stuff.
Okay. I was just wondering if you ever heard of that stuff.
I talk about meta ethics. All right, I guess I'm gonna get back into the gym.
Yeah, go do that. Yeah,
Fun.
bro, we've wasted your time long enough. Thank
Have
you.
a good time.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
Don't let me forget. I need to DM you about a paper that one of my friends wrote. I'm actually interested in your thoughts on it.
Are you talking to me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, send it my way.
Cool.
All right, sounds good. I'll probably be listening, but I'm gonna get back in the gym. Got to get something done here. All right, see y'all.
Don't even bother sending it, and it's gonna be full.
He's gonna go like clean and jerk like 300 pounds. Can you imagine like these academics at the gym just lifting like a shit ton of weight? It's actually kind of cool to think about.
Yeah, I don't
You-
think I
you
don't think
imagine
Michael
Michael
Huemer would
Huemer
do
at the
that.
gym,
No,
like,
because he's
bench pressing?
vegan. Well, he's vegan, so I don't think.
His protein intake's not that good.
No, I'm joking. But, yeah, I don't think he goes to the gym to lift
I would
weights,
like
but
to see a study though, like comparing the test level of like vegans versus non-vegans. See what it is.
it's probably higher for the vegans, unironically.
Yeah, I actually have one right here.
What
Oh,
level?
really?
The free test was higher.
Wait, what test?
The vegans.
Like no, test is in testosterone.
Oh,
It's probably higher for for the vegan because like most people's diets in America at least are like awful, and then with the vegans like they're going to be eating less like quote unquote processed foods probably like on average. So I just take it that they probably have higher testosterone, and especially like and this is like completely anecdotal, but the vegans I've met are all like gym bros. So
Well, I'm certainly not one.
the men I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I have not. Well, that might just be like a female gym diet culture thing, but fuck, what was I gonna say?
Use your words.
What the hell? Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! Oh, Kian, did you watch the debate between me and QBF?
Wait, you debated Quick Brown Fox?
Girl, you should go watch that. That
Wait,
shit is
on
pitiful.
what? What did you debate?
Was that the trans stuff?
On gender, yeah.
Oh Jesus! I actually love Quick Brown Fox, though. I'm not gonna lie.
No, look, let me tell you a few things. One, I found him to be quite dishonest. I think he attributed at least 4 or more views to me that aren't entailed by anything I said, or not views that I ever stated or implied that I held. The other thing is he did the kind of leapfrogging thing from point to point, and when I, would respond to him, he would say something like, "Okay, well, I think that's just confused, but we can move on from that, or we'll let the audience decide. Let's move on." Which I don't like. I don't like that debate culture shit. But he didn't quite give off the impression he was trying to do the 100 questions thing. He gave off the impression like, I'm here to critique part of your view or something like that. But Avi and Isaac talked to him after. I think the conversation with Avi and Isaac is almost necessary if you watch the original debate.
I'm ready for Glock's debate on gender. That's what
Wait, sorry. Repeat what you just said.
Well, Avi.
Wait, repeat what you just said, Anne.
Yeah, Avi uploaded because I wanted to talk to Avi and get his thoughts on the debate, and I think that his feedback was really good. But he seemed to generally kind of agree with the things I said or my approach to the debate or something like that. And then they talked to QBF after because he, was upset. He was upset that he thought that Avi and Isaac were picking sides or something. But
I can't believe I missed that, bro. Like, because I love like Ask Yourself and I love Avi, but I also like really love Quick Brown Fox. Like,
Bro.
so that'd have been, bro. Quick Brown Fox. Let me just tell you, he is actually the goat. Like,
I'm not a
Yeah,
fan.
I
I
love
don't
that
like
guy.
that Obby guy.
Well,
you don't like Avi? No,
Mm-mm.
Avi's cool. Avi, like,
Mm-mm.
I grew up watching his videos, though, so I'm obviously gonna like him.
Yeah,
but
you
Quick
grew
Brown
up
Fox-
watching the wrong stuff.
You would really, Seth, you would really like Quick Brown Fox, by the way. You'd really like him.
I don't
He
know.
has like pretty much the same. He has pretty much like the same views as you on like.
You don't know my
economics.
views.
No, he has the same views on you, at least on like he's a Reform UK like
I, thought
I
he
don't.
was
Well,
a
I don't like
capitalist.
Reform UK, but anyway.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But I
No,
thought
I don't. Well, I don't like Reform.